Welcome to Financial Minds Meet the Experts. I'm Jamie Agostino, your host. On this show, we're joined by financial industry experts to talk about topics, trends, and themes that credit union professionals need to know about. Today on Financial Minds Meet the Experts, we are talking with Mike Reuter, Executive Director of the Worldwide Foundation for Credit Unions. Mike, thank you so much for joining me today. Really appreciate it. Would you mind telling our listeners just a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. First of all, thanks for having me, Jamie. And it's always great to be able to engage with the Vizzo network. So I'm a born and raised Wisconsinite. I'm a Midwestern boy. I've lived in Wisconsin my whole life. Was an avid, I was actually in the history profession for almost 15 years as a museum CEO of two museums in Wisconsin, my native state. But kind of fell into credit unions actually, but through my professional network. There was a colleague that was working at World Council and recommended that I apply for this role at the Worldwide Foundation, and it'll be my 5-year anniversary at the end of January. So it feels like it's flown by in a flash, but been truly blessed and honored to be able to travel around the U.S. and internationally to meet so many diverse and passionate people that believe inherently in credit unions doing good around the world.
All right. Well, congratulations on your 5 years. All right.
Thank
So
you.
here's my first question. What are the goals and objectives of the Worldwide Foundation for Credit Unions?
The great question, and I think to answer it somewhat succinctly is you have the World Council. The Worldwide Foundation is within the World Council, and the World Council is also a trade association, and the foundation is obviously a 501c3 nonprofit. And so we have shared goals. We have a shared mission of expanding financial inclusion around the world to the underserved, and we use the credit union model to be able to do that. I would say independent of our link to World Council, we also have two network programs, the Global Women's Leadership Network that advances issues that create a legitimate gender gap for credit union women and female members, both domestically here in the United States and worldwide. And we also have our World Credit Union Young Professionals program that called YCUP that really brings together young professionals from around the world to think through the next development steps for credit union young professionals in any credit union system around the world. So we do those two distinct things, and we also help to respond to international credit union crises that occur around the world. And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about our work in Ukraine in the last year.
Yeah, yeah. So how does the foundation then assist credit unions worldwide as well as their members?
So what we do is we leverage the World Council, the trade association's network of credit union systems around the world, to keep an eye on crises that are potentially forthcoming. Historically, most of them have been natural disasters. So a hurricane or earthquake obviously can be difficult to near impossible to predict. But when we have a sense that a crisis may be forthcoming to an international credit union system, we marshal resources to respond as quickly as possible. Sometimes, more often than not, when a crisis does hit an international credit union peer system, we respond with our Project Stormbreak Fund, which is our credit union disaster relief initiative that helps to deploy direct funding down through the National Association, and then they subsequently send those funds to their credit union members. Through our relief work, we've conducted any manner of relief with respect to helping rebuild credit union branches, helping with short-term humanitarian supplies. We've even coordinated U.S. credit union and international credit union peer volunteer groups to go into these systems and help the leaders of that damaged system rebuild strategically the system over the long term. But Ukraine was kind of a unique situation that I'd be happy to kind of talk a little bit about further.
Yeah, no, definitely want you to share more about Ukraine. But one of my questions, though, is, obviously, all these things that you're doing, the relief efforts and things like that, they require funds. So how
Yeah.
does the foundation raise funds, for, the grants, the professional development, as well as the assistance that they provide?
That's a great question. So we have four distinct funds. We have our unrestricted fund, that is our largest fund that helps to grow credit unions around the world, strengthen credit union systems around the world. At its most basic purpose, it is to help advance financial inclusion to the underserved and underserved communities. And we do that through the World Council's projects, credit union development projects. And so we solicit annually through a campaign credit unions in the United States, QSOs in the United States, the league system, individual donors like credit union board members, CEOs, C-suite staff, members even make generous individual contributions to that effort because they believe inherently that cooperation amongst cooperatives is one of our cooperative principles, and they believe that that should extend to the international space as well. So those are kind of the four funds that we have. And so we create a very choreographed, coordinated annual fundraising campaign called Bridge the Gap. So we bridge, like I mentioned, with Global Women's, the gender gap. We bridge the leadership gap with YCUP. We bridge the safety gap with our relief aid fund, Project Stormbreak. And we bridge the inclusion gap through our unrestricted fund called the Priority Fund. So we have 5 phases of the campaign throughout the year. And so right now we're kind of in that pre-launch phase as we head into 2023. And then the phase beyond that is the governmental affairs conference when many of us go to Washington, D.C. and engage with our colleagues across the U.S. system.
Yes, I will be there at the GAC this year. So,
Great.
so what events or activities, do you guys have planned for
Mhm.
23? I'm sure
Yep.
there's a lot.
Yeah, so to kind of play off of that campaign timeline that I mentioned a minute ago, we have 3 kind of we use 3 milestone times of the year. GAC would be the first, and then we have the World Credit Union Conference roughly around mid to late July, and then we have International Credit Union Day, the 3rd Thursday of October, and we kind of strategically plan all of our hybrid activities and events and engagement opportunities around those 3 milestones. The Global Women's Leadership Network, for example, will be transitioning its GAC breakfast to a lunch this year. The foundation itself has an event in the evening on the Sunday before GAC starts called Cooperative Voices, where we invite our champion donors as well as kind of interested non-donors to come to our event and hear the actual stories of human transformation and how credit unions around the world are changing lives and changing communities. At the World Credit Union Conference, obviously, if the VIZO community is aware of that unique touch point, it's the largest international credit union conference in the world. And it has a host for 3 days. It has just a plethora of keynoters, breakout sessions, excursions into the host city, of which it'll be Vancouver, British Columbia this year in July. And there's going to be a lot of kind of new themes that are going to be touched upon with respect to the challenges that the international credit union community faces: climate, member resilience, community resiliency, and the Worldwide Foundation obviously plays a key role in having its gala. We have a gala at the conference. We have a variety of breakout sessions that talk about the impact of Global Women's, of our Ukraine funding, of the YCUP program. Will unveil and spotlight their scholarship award winners. So there's just a lot of distinct activities at the World Credit Union Conference. For us at World Council, it's the busiest time of our year, quite candidly, at the World Credit Union Conference. And then getting back to U.S. credit union engagement specifically, we've really partnered well with CUNA. The World Council partners well with CUNA and the foundation by extension to generate greater awareness and activity and I would say philanthropic support of credit union systems and credit unions internationally on or leading up to and on International Credit Union Day itself. I think every credit union in the United States does perhaps something a little bit differently on International Credit Union Day. And I think I also though believe that it's a really unique opportunity to inspire and bring together the collective efforts and talents and treasure of the U.S. credit union system to honor and share a story, but also perhaps give a little bit of treasure to I think the collective mission of us growing credit unions around the world, and leveraging that holiday to be able to do so.
All right. For credit unions that are interested in doing more, how can they help and support the foundation?
Yeah, there's 2 distinct ways. I think one is the first way is the very traditional way that credit unions have supported in the past is by considering becoming a champion of the Worldwide Foundation. That we use the word champion to personify our donors. Just like a lot of other partners within the credit union system in the U.S., there are contribution levels, suggested levels of contribution depending on asset size of the various credit unions. And what comes with that contribution is the knowledge and the stories and the impact that they're helping us make in growing credit unions around the world. Credit unions often designate which one of our 4 funds that they want to support, whether it be the disaster relief. Do they want to help us grow credit unions generally around the world through our priority fund, or do they want to support one of our two networks, the Global Women's Leadership Network or the Y Cup Network? So, and a lot of credit unions give a little bit to each one of those funds. So there's just a variety of ways that they can charitably contribute, and then by extension, depending on the level that they get a level of access to those various events that I spoke of at the GAC, the International Credit Union Day webinar and activities, and then the World Credit Union Conference in July. So that's the one way. I would say and that kind of tugs at the charitable giving that credit unions have historically been so great at. But I think the second distinct way is a little bit more towards giving them value as running a business, as a financial institution, and that's through our Global Bridges engagement program. So we have created over the last 3 years this unique, customized, a la carte international credit union learning journey experience called Global Bridges that invites credit unions to hire us, candidly, to create a curated learning journey between themselves and an international credit union peer. So, for example, we just finished a 2-year Global Bridges journey between 5 Oregon credit unions and the South Korean credit union system. And that journey included a multitude of touch points, both virtual engagement webinars where they were talking to one another about digitization of their credit union systems, of regulatory burdens, of training and education. But we also coordinated visits. So the South Koreans came to the 5 Oregon credit unions in May of this year to visit and engage and learn. And then we just completed in early November a visit to South Korea by the Oregon delegation. So we at the Worldwide Foundation, on behalf of the World Council, can coordinate or curate this entire international learning journey that a lot of credit unions see as a professional development opportunity to be given to teams, to board members, to C-suite, to staff. But also, what can we learn from our international peers that we can maybe take a couple nuggets back to our own credit union and better serve that diverse community of members within our own field of membership. So I would say that second branch of engagement is very unique, and it's where we're seeing the greatest growth, quite candidly, between building relationships between ourselves at the Worldwide Foundation and the U.S. credit union community.
All right. Before I let you go, I do want to talk about Ukraine. You guys have done a
Mhm.
lot of things in Ukraine. Would you mind sharing a little bit about what you were able to accomplish there?
Absolutely. And first, I just want to thank the Viso community and Viso Financial directly for being one of our generous donors to our Ukraine Displacement Fund, very generously stepping forward and supporting us with a very generous contribution early on in the campaign. We raised close to $2 million to support
Wow.
Ukraine's credit union system. And that support, again, has been branched out into 2 phases. Phase 1 is the short-term relief. So we by year's end, we'll have deployed almost 700,000 of that 1.8 million towards a variety of relief grants that have supported Ukraine's credit union system and their 2 national associations in a variety of ways. One, for example, was a $100,000 grant that we deployed through the national associations that allowed their credit union members to give fuel coupons and loan reimbursements, loan forgiveness to various members who were taking out agricultural loans. Many of the Ukraine credit union members are farmers and agricultural producers. And so being able to provide them both with fuel coupons, that vital resource that is being redirected to the military operations in Ukraine, we were able to, through our Ukraine contacts in country, able to provide them with a level of support in providing them that key resource. And now we're just finishing up some paperwork to deploy some final grants before the end of the year to support member families whose loved ones have gone off and served in the military. So providing servicemen and women loan forgiveness or loan reimbursement, knowing that, and their families knowing that this is an incredibly hard time, and there's significant hardship on those households for those families, most of them throughout Ukraine, who have loved ones that are serving in the military and defending the country. So those are just 2 of 7 to 8 grant programs that we have going on with relief. And then in the new year, we'll be working with the World Council on deploying the remaining $1 million of that fund towards long-term rebuilding and recovery of Ukraine's credit union system. So rebuilding its digitization infrastructure, working with Ukraine's credit union system on erasing or reducing some of the regulatory burden that Ukraine's credit union system faces, and continuing to strengthen the 2 national associations that work in harmony together to continue to advance and grow credit unions in Ukraine.
All right. Amazing stuff. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're
Any
welcome.
final thoughts for our viewers regarding the Worldwide Foundation for Credit Unions?
Yeah, I would just say, as we continue to look at the global credit union system each and every year, the global credit union system continues to grow in terms of membership and market share. And that is due in large part to the support that we get at the Worldwide Foundation from our champion donor community. So for those listening out there, thank you who are our champions. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for giving a bit of your time, your talent, your treasure to support the international credit union community. I know it's easy to only support domestic and local efforts. I hope what I've shared today through this podcast really resonates, and that each of you will continue to find a small amount of resources to be able to continue to support the work that we do. And for those that aren't champions of the Worldwide Foundation, I would strongly ask you all to consider becoming champions, because we can't grow the global credit union system without your support. We're a small organization of 50 staff at the World Council and the Worldwide Foundation. And so the support that we get from the U.S. credit union system and champions like the Vizzo community are essential. So thank you so much for considering. And for those that have been champions, we're grateful for your support, obviously, around this holiday season and throughout all of 2022.
All right. Mike, thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you for everything that you're doing for the credit union industry as a whole.
It's truly an honor, Jamie. Thank you.
All right. I'd also like to take a moment to wish everyone a happy and safe new year. Financial Minds Meet the Experts podcast and vodcast. We'll be taking a bit of a break. We're going to be making some enhancements, and we're going to be starting back up in April of 2023. If you have any topics that you'd like me to address in 2023, please email them to marketing@vfccu.org. As always, thanks for listening. Have a great day, and Happy New Year, everyone.